Our collusion and corruption segment tonight. President Trump stands up to Russia. The president has expelled 60 Russian diplomats from the U.S. in the wake of a nerve agent attack in the U.K. waged by the Russians. The move was made in coordination with 14 other European countries, who also announced today they would be kicking Russian diplomats out of their respective countries. President Trump is drawing a hard line on Russia here, so why are liberals trying to spin this as further evidence of Trump-Russia collusion? Joining me now, national security expert Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
All right, Dr. Grant, 60 Russians, diplomats, but we all know that they're intelligence agents, they're spies for Russia. Trump has expelled them from our country. What do you make of this?
It's a good move. Trump is backing our #1 ally, that's Great Britain. Theresa May has been very strong in her condemnation of this attack. She says Russia has violated the Chemical Weapons Convention. She has pointed out that it is almost 100% certain that this nerve agent used in the attack was a Russian military product. So Trump has very cautiously let Theresa May take the lead, and now he's come on very strong, expelling 60 diplomats. There are more going out. It's, I think, a total of almost 100 being expelled from several European countries, all the Warsaw Pact former nations, and a few from Canada as well. This is defiance from the West to really send a strong message to Putin.
Right, and I think what Prime Minister May said was pretty interesting, that either the Russians themselves were responsible for this nerve agent because they were the ones who produced it, or they were irresponsible in letting someone else steal it. It was sort of a lose-lose for them. There's also a consulate, a Russian consulate here in the United States that has been closed, not just the individuals banned. In Seattle, the consulate is going to close within a week here. A lot of people are asking why Seattle versus the consulate in Washington, D.C. If I'm not mistaken, it's because of the close proximity of this consulate to the Navy base and how much spying goes on there. But if you could tell us more about that, we would appreciate.
Yes, the consulate in Seattle, I think they had a couple of reasons, and this was one of the reasons that the Trump administration had to wait to figure out where to close a consulate. Seattle's a good choice. Here's why. It is very close to a major submarine base there at Joint Base Kitsap Bangor. Some of our nuclear ballistic missile submarines are home ported there and go out on their patrols. Boeing always has, of course, a large commercial and other type of aircraft drone-making presence up in Seattle. There's also a sense that that consulate may be involved in some of the communications relays, all the typical spy stuff. So closing the consulate really underlines this very strong anti-Russia measure from the Trump administration in line with our allies.
And of course, this was expected, but the Russians have not responded favorably to the expulsion of their diplomats, their intelligence agents, nor the closing of this consulate. They're talking about retaliation already, that they may do the same thing. They may expel U.S. diplomats, U.S. intelligence agents from Russia. What do you expect, and what do you believe that the president, what reaction do you believe that President Trump was hoping for from Putin?
Well, I think it's not unlikely they may do some expulsions, but I want to point out that we have kept a lid on this. We have not recalled Ambassador Huntsman. We have not thrown out the Russian ambassadors either in the U.S. or in other countries. So everyone knows we have to continue some diplomatic dialogue. The Russians have said all kinds of things. They denied that they did it. They said it was the Ukrainians who set them up. So I expect a lot more words from the Russians, but not much more in the way of action. And what we're hoping is that this will send such a forceful message to Russia that they'll stop messing in our Western democracies and messing with our way of life.
Right, which may be a little bit too much to hope for here. So, of course, the left is already trying to spin this, and this is just absolute nonsense. It's utter nonsense. The left is already trying to spin this as being somehow proof that Trump is actually colluding with the Russians. You would think that they would have stopped doing this by now, that the left would have stopped making these allegations, since they have absolutely no proof whatsoever. But, I mean, what argument is this even based on? This is a move that will obviously anger the Russians, will obviously not endear President Trump to Vladimir Putin. What is the left trying? What point is the left trying to make by saying that this plays into their theory or their allegations?
Which simply astonishes me. They have nothing here, and what they're refusing to see is an extraordinarily strong response from the Trump administration. But it goes all the way back. Trump, they added a NATO member. They sent more troops to Poland. We've approved lethal aid to Ukraine for the first time. So the left is willfully ignoring that Trump is being very strong with Russia. Now, as the White House says, they're ready to talk with Russia at some point. They want Russia to change their behavior. We know that we have ongoing dialogue with Russia in Syria because our forces are very, very close to each other at all times. But the left is completely out to lunch. There is no collusion. Trump is doing what a strong U.S. president should do in pushing back and in the right ways against unacceptable Russian behavior.
Right, and maybe that's the part that the left's not used to after the last 8 years of President Obama. They're not used to a president actually standing up to Russia. Dr. Grant, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.